Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with The Walking Dead Season 8, Episode 9. Such an emotional episode. I'm here with my review for it. Alright, so, wow, what an episode, so emotional here with the death of Carl. So first off, I'd just like to say, before I get into this one, I didn't upload the Season 8, Episode 7 and 8, the finale, and I think Episode 7, if I'm not mistaken. Those reviews were never up on the channel, and I'm really, I'm sorry about that. That was, just a really, really busy time with me. And I saw the episodes, I saw them, and I think I even made some notes about them and stuff, but I just never got around to actually making the reviews for them and uploading them. So I do feel bad about that, but honestly, just to kind of summarize my thoughts, I was really disappointed with the finale. I thought it was just really disappointing with everything that was supposed to come together and be in that episode. I just felt like it was a huge letdown. And I just wasn't too happy about it, and that could be another reason why I didn't make the review either. I don't want to, come on here and just be, all negative, and I love Walking Dead, it's my favorite show on the air right now, so I don't want to do that. I don't, want to just rip it apart for a review and whatever, so, but there was obviously some positives, I mean, don't get me wrong, but just overall, I thought it was a letdown, to be honest. But this one, let me tell you, I mean, this episode is now in my top 10. I thought this episode was amazing. By far the best in Season 8 so far. I'd say the best of Season 7 and 8 so far. The first day of the rest of your lives, that one was pretty good, but this one topped it for sure. Just such an emotional vibe to this one. Really, really tough to watch, honestly. And if you're a really big fan and you've been watching since Season 1, which I haven't really. I've been watching since Season 3, but of course I've went back and seen the series since Season 1, and crazy stuff. I mean, just to see Carl in Season 1, I think he's in Episode 2. Episode 2 of Season 1, or maybe Episode 1. No, I think Episode 2 of Season 1, to go from there until now in Season 8, Episode 9, 8 years later. Pretty crazy stuff, and yeah, so just really great to see Chandler Riggs, going through that and growing up on the show, right? So it's a big thing. And honestly, this decision of killing off Carl, very controversial, right? Got a lot of attention, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the viewership for this one is like in the ratings, because I don't know, if this doesn't get the viewers back, I don't know what will. So we'll have to see there for that. But yeah, obviously this decision, a big one, a huge one, going to change the rest of the show forever. And honestly, so far at least, I think it was not the right decision, but they made it for a good reason at least. So anyways, yeah, I'll get into a little bit of a recap here for this one, and then get to a rating, my favorite character, which is pretty obvious, and some more overall thoughts of the episode here for sure. So yeah, from now on, I'm gonna, of course, upload the rest of this season, barring any setbacks or any busy times or whatever. But yeah, so I'll be here week to week, so please keep coming back and tuning in to the reviews. Hopefully I'm going to try to get these back, keep going up on Sunday nights right after the episode. That's the goal. But if not, usually Mondays or Tuesdays. So anyways, in the intro sequence here, actually before the real intro comes, it was actually quite a long one this week. Usually they keep it to about like 4 or 5 minutes, usually max, but this one was about 10 minutes long, so it's quite a long one. And we see another flash forward. I'm just gonna call it flash forward instead of a flashback, right? Because it's in the future. But yeah, so we see another flash forward to Rick as an old man with Jerry and Judith. Right, we saw this at the beginning of Season 8 in Episode 1, I believe. This like flash forward to Rick, old man with the beard and all that. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff to see that again. Kind of cool to see Jerry, greet Judith and stuff. That was just really cool to see that. And Jerry's such a likable guy, right? That's really cool, for him to greet her like that. And then we also see another flash forward to, obviously we know this one's more recent, but obviously we see Rick and Michonne burying Carl, or at least digging the grave for him, right? And we know it's him, right? Because we know he's gonna die in this one. And I don't know, a lot of people out there put out like theories that he's still alive and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know, guys, I don't know. I thought that was pretty ridiculous, to be honest. The character is dead. You get bit in The Walking Dead, you die. People are saying he's immune and stuff. It's like, no, he's not. He is gonna die, and that was foregone conclusion in this one. It was just how he was gonna die. So, anyways, yeah. So they're bringing Carl, or at least digging the grave to put him in there. And then we go back and we see the moment Carl got bit, right? And also the moments afterward as he writes the goodbye letters to his dad, hangs out with Judith for the day, and then he puts like the little hand painting on the deck there in the blue paint, which was kind of cool. Obviously I think that'll come back. It's a pretty big symbol there for that. So I'm sure that we'll see that again on the deck or whatever, where it comes up again. And then we just see him, greeting Michonne when she comes back, just like basically his last day, right? And him playing cards with Sadiq and everything. And of course, he hasn't told anyone yet. He knows himself that he's been bit and that he's most likely, gonna die pretty soon. But he's just acting like it's a normal day for him, and that's all he could do. So really great stuff there. And then he gets Sadiq settled in the sewers as well. That's important to him. He's hiding Sadiq there until he talks to Rick about it, because he's not sure exactly how that's gonna go. So he's just hiding Sadiq down there. But crazy stuff. And again, I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of this whole thing. I feel like if they had a savior kill Carl, I feel like it would have been more effective than him getting bitten. And even in that scene, it's like, this guy has been alive for 2.5 years show time, but 8 years real time in the show, surviving. He's fought zombies, these walkers before, many more walkers than were that in that scene, and he gets bitten by one of them there. It's like, why now, during the war? And I don't know, it just seems, they could have done a little bit of a better job. Maybe a bigger swarm of them could have came. There was like 2 or 3 walkers, around him, and then he gets bitten by one. And he has a gun too, and he shot him after he bit him. So I'm not a big fan of that. I know it would have been, a lot more gruesome, maybe, but even if Negan killed him, or one of the saviors, not killed him, but at least like wounded him, and then he bled out or something like that, and we still get that goodbye scene, but I feel like that would have been way more effective. But anyways, that is what they decided to do. And then we see that the saviors get out by piling up the bodies. So that's how they actually get out of the sanctuary there. And actually, when we see this scene, it doesn't look like there's a lot of walkers there to begin with. It looks like most of the walkers are gone. Like, that herd that they got was pretty damn big. It didn't look like there was many left by then. But anyway, so they get out, they shoot these, the walkers, strategically, right? So that they, make, walls so that they can get through and get out. And then also Eugene's music, player also helps them, right? They had kind of 2 things there. And then Morgan and the Lookouts see this, and, they run, right? They have to run because the Saviors are starting to get out. They know where they are, and they start firing at them and everything. So Morgan's, of course, he's able to get out. Not sure what happened to the other Lookouts. They all maybe have died. I'm not sure. But yeah, so he gets out, he runs away, and obviously then he runs to the kingdom. So, so then we see Carl tells Rick, Rick and Michonne come down in the sewer and see Carl, and Carl reveals the bite, of course. That's where we ended off last episode. And so, yeah, then Carl tells Rick that he got bit. Rick and Michonne think that the Saviors did something, or whatever. They're kind of in denial, but he says, no, I got bit, getting Sadiq back to the sewers. And this was really the start of the emotional part of the episode, which, the emotional part, like, it was the whole episode. Like, it was really emotional tonight. And then we also find out that Sadiq is a doctor, which is very interesting. So, obviously, they need a doctor. Denise is gone, as of season 6. And Carson, there's only that one Carson left because Negan went and killed the other Carson. So, yeah, they only have one doctor pretty much for all 3 communities. So Sadiq being a doctor, that's a huge thing. And obviously Carl didn't know that, right? He didn't know that Sadiq was a doctor. He just did it to save the guy, and he ends up being a doctor. So that's going to be really interesting, really great to hear, and just some interesting news. I thought like that was a cool reveal, that he's a doctor. So anyways, Rick and Michonne obviously, taken aback at that, and they're left kind of trying to figure out, what happened. So yeah, really emotional part there. And then we see this part was one of my favorite parts of the episode as well, where Carol and Morgan. And this whole part of the episode. So it was basically this and then Carl, right? I mean, those were kind of the two, plot lines going in this episode. But Carol and Morgan get into the kingdom to save Ezekiel. And it's crazy. Like, you wouldn't think, like, this older lady and, this guy, are just going to go in and take on a whole group of saviors. And there was quite a lot of them. There was at least 20 of them, Gavin and his guys in there. And they're like, yeah, we're just going to go in and, take them all out, save Ezekiel, just us two. And, it's pretty crazy to see, but obviously we're used to it. So then, as we see, Henry sneaks in there as well. While the rest of the kingdomers are going to the safe house, he escapes from that little group and then comes to the kingdom. He tells Carol a little bit before that he wants to come, and she doesn't let him. So then, of course, he sneaks in. So, I don't know, a lot of people are saying that Henry's going to be the new Carl going forward. Now that Carl's dead, he's going to pick up some of his storylines. And I think that it could be true because of this, especially in this episode. But anyways, Morgan and Carol take out the saviors. They start to take them out one by one, sneaking up on them in the streets and everything. And obviously their main goal is to save Ezekiel. Total badasses, right? Carol and Morgan. They're probably two of the most badass characters we have on the show. And just insane stuff from them, taking them out one by one. And Morgan, just, stabbing them with his stick there, sharpening it up and stabbing them and killing them all. And then, also, putting it down on their head too, just to make sure. So yeah, crazy stuff. And I just like to point this out. It's really, really interesting that just a season ago, or even maybe just a half season ago, neither of these characters ever wanted to kill again. Just think of that. You know what I mean? Morgan, all life is precious, that whole thing there. Carol moves to this little cottage outside of the kingdom because she doesn't want to deal with other people. She doesn't want to kill for people anymore. She doesn't want to kill again. And here both these characters are killing all these saviors, really ruthlessly to save their either king or, Ezekiel. So crazy stuff. I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was really interesting. So then we see another emotional moment here. Carl says goodbye to Judith. Yeah, really crazy stuff here. I don't know. You really can't slam, child, baby actors or, child actors at all. But yeah, I don't know. The baby who was playing Judith, just wasn't really, believable at all. I mean, she kind of had a smile on her face the whole time when this was happening. It's yeah, a baby wouldn't know what was going on at that time, but, I don't know, to see a guy with a bandage on his face and his face being so washed out, and or sorry, flushed out, sorry, and just going through that, you wouldn't think that the baby would be kind of scared by him. I don't know, and maybe have a frown, not a smile. I don't know. It just seemed a little weird. But again, you can't really, you can't critique, a baby actor that, it's hard. So anyways, and apparently they have twins who are playing that baby Judith, two different babies. So I guess the one who's cooperating the most that day is in the shot. I don't know, but yeah. Anyways, so he's talking to her, and this was such a big quote. And this was all over the previews for this one, and he says, before Mom died, she told me that I was going to beat this world. And obviously, he said, I didn't beat this world, right? I'm dying. But he says, but you will beat this world. So, and then he also gives her the sheriff's hat and says, what that has meant to him in the years, since it all started with Rick and give him that hat. So, crazy stuff. And he's had that hat, I think, since the beginning of season 2. So, yeah, really great stuff there. So emotional, right? Passing on the baton, in a way, right, to his sister. And then Daryl, I thought this was kind of a cool part as well. He says, you saved all these people. You were the one who did this, who saved all these people and got us down in the sewers. He said, that's on you, man. And I thought that was really great. I mean, Daryl, of course, he's been with Carl since the beginning as well. And to see him, say this to him and support him and say, you're the reason that we're all alive, you saved all of us, is pretty crazy coming from a guy like Daryl, right? Who usually who does that, who saves people. So, Crazy stuff. And then Sadiq, we see him kind of saying goodbye. He says he will honor Carl, and that, of course, is the name of the episode. I thought that was really interesting there. But he says he will honor Carl by showing his friends and family that what he did wasn't for nothing. That he's going to show them that, Carl saving him was, it had a purpose, right? It's going to be, it's going to count for something, and Sadiq is going to, not cooperate, but, he's going to be an important role in this group now, for Carl. He's going to honor Carl by being, a really, good part of this group for Rick and the others. So, I thought that was great. I thought, him saying that was pretty cool. And, of course, name of the episode, right? So, very important there. And then Rick and Michonne decide to stay with Carl instead of going to the hilltop with the rest of the group when the Saviors leave. And this was probably one of my only things that I didn't like in this episode, is the Saviors leaving. Like, they bomb all these houses. They set Alexandria, ablaze and all this stuff. And then they just leave without, tracking down Rick, without finding anyone. I don't know. It just seems a little unrealistic. But anyways, they leave. So then the rest of the group decides to go to the hilltop. But Rick and Michonne say, we're going to stay back because Carl is not going to make the trip. And Rick knows that, right? He doesn't want to jeopardize that and have, just Carl dying in a car, right? And not having to Tyrese, right? And what happens and what's going on in season 5. He ended up dying in the car. He didn't make the trip. And they weren't able to say a proper goodbye. So he knows that, right? So he's going to stay with him for his last moments and be there for him instead of, risking that. So, yeah, really great stuff there. So then we just see Michonne, Carl, and Rick down in the sewers there. So at this point in the episode, I would say it's kind of moving slow at this point, right? Not too much action. We see the Morgan and Carol taking out some guys, there, and that was kind of, cool. But this is when the episode kind of starts, hitting the gas pedal per se, right? It really gets going. So we see Morgan and Carol bust into the theater where Gavin and his men are now because they hear this gunfire and whatever. So they're kind of freaking out, right? They know Morgan and Carol are there and that they've killed some men now. And, they kind of know that they're next, right? They're in danger. So they get into this theater, they fortify sort of, and try their best, to take out Carol and Morgan, right? Of course, they don't know that it's just them or whatever. But anyway, so Morgan and Carol distract the men, with some smoke grenade or something like that. And then, just a crazy scene here. And then they, break down the little wooden wall that, is hiding them. And they just start opening fire at them, right? And with machine guns, right? So they're just, rapid firing. They kill pretty much all of them at once. I mean, just crazy stuff. I mean, they really, gun them all down. Gavin gets shot in the leg, but he doesn't die. So he's still alive there. And Ezekiel's able to duck down, thankfully, so he doesn't get shot. But then we see a man attacks Morgan right when he's, pulling the trigger and he's shooting. A guy comes out of nowhere who's already been shot, by the way, in the stomach area and attacks Morgan. He gets on top of him, and he seems to be winning it. I mean, he's, giving him some good hits. He's punching him pretty hard. And Morgan, man, this was an insane scene. I know some people maybe are like, wow, I was too far, but I love this. I want to see as many Saviors die, as possible, personally, just for all the struggle and the hardship that the group has went through the last season and a half with them. But anyways, so Morgan takes matters into his own hands. He reaches into this guy's bullet wound that's already there. So he reaches into his bullet wound and, just keeps going and going and going until he pulls out his guts. He literally goes into his skin and pulls out his guts. Just ruthless, man. I mean, just to, win the fight, just to be alive, reaches in and just rips out his guts. Crazy stuff, right? Just insane. So then after, of course, he rips out his guts, which, crazy stuff there, Gavin ends up running away. So Gavin actually gets away. Morgan, shoots a couple at him, but he's able to get away. And I don't know. I would have liked to, just see him gunned down. But then, of course, later on, we come back to this. So just going to keep following on this storyline, and then I'll get back to it. But, yeah, this isn't necessarily in chronological order. But Morgan ends up tracking him down, and he's hiding in this little, I think he's like hiding in a carton or something like that. And Morgan opens it up and he falls out, tracks him down, and then he has him on the ground, and he's holding his stick or his spear, I guess, at him. And he says, okay, stand up, in case, because Gavin's saying, you think you can take on Negan, like you're not going to do it. You can, or whatever, saying all this stuff. Kind of provoking him. I mean, the guy kind of, the guy's trying to kind of plead for his life, and then he ends up provoking him. And then Carol and Ezekiel come in, and they find where he is. They're kind of standing around, and Carol says, you don't have to do this, Morgan. You don't have to kill him, right? They're telling him not to kill Gavin. It's not, it's not worth it. We've already won, Ezekiel says, you don't have to kill him. That would, I think he even says that would be the coward thing to do, is to kill him. Or something like that, which honestly I kind of agree with, because like if they keep Gavin alive, he's a big bargaining chip. I mean, I think Negan really cared, because he's one of the top 3 guys, right? Simon is his right hand man, and I would say Gavin is right up there close to Simon, right? Because he was in that big board meeting, per se, in Big Scary You, right, in the 5th episode. So I think keeping him alive would be a bargaining chip for something in the future. But Morgan thinks hard about it, and he says, he has to kill him. He says, I have to. And of course, this is back to Clear Morgan, right? Here's Not Here, that episode and all that. He says, I have to do this. I have to clear. So a little flashback to that, right? Maybe, he's kind of clicking back into that Morgan, the Clear Morgan, people call him. And then suddenly, Morgan's about to do it, and then suddenly Henry comes from behind Gavin and stabs him in the neck from behind. Crazy stuff, just stabs him right through the neck and kills him, and Gavin, dropping to the ground. Wow. I mean, crazy. I knew that Henry's going to come back in the scene somehow, because he was there. I thought that the Saviors were actually going to capture him, and then Morgan and Carol would have to, fight to get him back. I thought that's what I predicted, but I didn't predict this. Wow. I mean, Henry just ruthless, like just putting it through the back of his neck and killing him. So, wow, right? And Ezekiel's kind of, he doesn't know what to do. He just, kind of hugs Henry, says, it's okay and stuff. And Carol, tries telling him that he shouldn't have done it, that was wrong and stuff. But Ezekiel knows, you're not, you can't do that to this kid, so he kind of comforts him. We'll have to see what happens with him next, because, I mean, that's, that whole theme of what Carl was saying about the prison, how he gunned down that kid. Henry pretty much did that. I mean, Gavin's defenseless. He's not doing anything. Yes, he's a bad guy, though, right? He is a bad guy, and I'd love to see him killed. I mean, I didn't want to see him live. But yeah, so kind of getting into that territory with Henry, so we'll have to see. That's, again, another reason why I think he is going to take Carl's part and become that Carl in the new storyline. So, interesting stuff there. We'll have to see where that goes next week and the rest of the season. So then, this is the big emotional part here to end the episode. Yeah, crazy stuff here. I mean, I was, pretty much tearing up at this point. I mean, this was just really sad. And like I said, to be a fan since season 1, see Carl and even see Chandler Riggs, the actor, go through, the whole show, growing up with it and stuff. Just a crazy stuff to see this. So Carl tells Michonne to be strong instead of sad about his death, right? He has to be strong for Rick and the others, to keep them, going pretty much. And Michonne is such a strong character, right? One of the strongest on the show. And I totally believe that she will, right? She's going to be strong about it. And so, yeah, Rick and Michonne then decide to help him out of the sewers, because... obviously they don't really want him to die in the sewers, right? And also, the candles are going out and stuff. So, anyways, they take him out, and their goal is to take him to the house, the closest house that's not burned down, right? From all the Savior fire. But they're not going to make it there. They decide Carl's not going to make the trip. So they take him to the church. I think it was the church, yeah. So the church floor there, and they lay him down. And this is basically, his last scene of the show. So yeah, then Carl tells Rick, and of course this is like switching back from Morgan and Gavin to this. I felt like that was kind of, I don't know. I felt like they could have just done Morgan and Gavin in one, and then just had this the last like 5-7 minutes of the episode. I would have appreciated it more instead of the switching back. But anyways, Carl tells Rick that he can be the guy who let the Woodbury people in the prison again with the Saviors. He can do the same thing right? He says, it's the right thing to do. And it's what made him who he is. He tells that whole story about how he gunned down the kid, and Rick really, took in those people to show Carl, what type of man, or what type of boy to be, and that killing that kid wasn't right, and that's also why they become farmers too, and all that stuff in season 4. So yeah, that's just really crazy stuff there. Right, and for him, Carl to bring that up again and everything. And now we see the reason that they have killed Carl off, right? Obviously it's for the story, and this is the main reason. So, yeah, and then Carl says he pictures how it could be, and then we see all the flash forwards that we've seen so far come together, right? So we know now that all these flash forwards were things that Carl pictured. Carl could see this happening. He says, this is how it could be, right? And Carl says, if you can be how you were back then, that's how it could be, right? And we see all those flash forwards with Eugene, back there again, with the group. Obviously, he's been forgiven, and all these people, just working together and being in this community together. And Rick says, I'm going to make it real. I promise, And also he says, it was all for you, Carl, right? Everything he's done in his life has been for Carl and Judith. Ever since the beginning of this, apocalypse, and the beginning of his, when they were born, I would say too, right? As a dad, even before. And he says nothing is going to change that. Even your death isn't going to change that, right? Everything's still going to be for you and Judith. So, yeah, really emotional stuff there, right? With that, and I don't know how I feel about Carl saying all this stuff, that's how it could be and all that. I don't know. Personally, I'd like Negan dead. I'd like to see a lot of the saviors killed. Yeah, would I like to see, a little integration, Rick letting some of them live, and them living together, going on in the future? Yeah, I would. I mean, it sets a precedent, for what's, to come, in the show and how they're going to handle things. But I would like to see a lot of the saviors killed, and in specific Negan. I think the stuff he's done is unforgivable. But anyways, that's the way Carl sees it. That's the way Rick is kind of, seeing it now that Carl has influenced him. So then we see Carl pull out his gun, and this was, really emotional, man. And he says he has to do it himself, right? He says, usually, a loved one does it for you, but I can still do it myself right now. I'm in the state where I can do it, so I want to do it. I have to do it myself. And I feel like this was, I agree with him, because I think if Michonne and Rick did that, I don't think they could do it. I don't think Rick could put down his own son. I don't think Michonne could either. And this was what I was predicting ever since, the finale, the mid-season finale, that he would kill himself, or put himself down. I didn't think Rick and Michonne could do it. So I think Carl taking it into his own hands was nice. Not nice, but, it was important, right, for all the characters involved. And Rick tells them, right before, he says that he will make it real for him, right? He's going to do it for him. He's going to make that real. And, what Carl says how it could be, he's going to make that real. He's going to do that. He's going to do his best to make that reality, right? So, yeah, crazy stuff there. And then, of course, then we see the scene. Rick and Michonne are outside the church steps. They've left Carl now. And then we see, of course, Carl saying, I love you, Dad, and that, and Rick, kissing him on the forehead and all that. Crazy stuff. And then we see Michonne breaking down as well. Wow. She wasn't the only one breaking down. Of course, a lot of the viewers would have been as well. And then Rick and Michonne sitting out on the stairs, and they hear Carl pull the trigger. We hear that gunshot. Of course, this is kind of a flashback back to Andrea in season 3 when we lost her. That big scene where we hear the gunshot, and then all the characters are, very emotional at that point. And this is kind of the same thing. I thought that was kind of interesting that they decided to do that again. So, yeah, crazy stuff here. Carl ends up, ending it for himself. And Rick and Michonne, then we see them burying Carl. So then those scenes that we saw before of them digging the grave and burying him come together, and then they are burying Carl finally in real time. And then this was really interesting, is we see the flash forward scene, and Negan is there. So this is a new flash forward scene that Rick is seeing now. Now that Carl's described all this stuff to him, Rick is seeing this and imagining this, and he's imagining Judith walking around in the garden, and then we see Negan, who's doing some of the crops, and he looks over and he says, "Well, hello, darling," or whatever, and he's alive and he's with the group and he's doing all this stuff. And crazy for for Rick to picture that, right? But maybe that is how it's gonna be. Maybe Negan is gonna be a member of their group someday in the future, and maybe Rick is gonna let him live. So we'll have to see where that goes. Of course, me personally, I would not like to see that. I'd like to see him be tortured to death, at this point. But, it is what it is. We'll have to see what goes on. But anyways, he says hello to Judith. Holy shit. I mean, that's just a crazy moment to think of, that Negan's going to say hello to Judith like that. But anyways, so crazy stuff there. And then the episode ends with Rick sitting in front of the tree, and he's seeing those little window, sort of things, sway in the wind there. And we also saw that in the season 8 premiere, right? We saw those things swaying in the wind, and then we saw Rick's face. So that's when he says, "My mercy prevails over my wrath," or whatever, when he's sitting in front of that tree. So anyways, then we see that, and then the episode ends. That's it. So Carl, an amazing send-off, such an emotional send-off. And Rick is picturing this, and he says he's going to make it real. That's, he's going to do it. He's going to do it for Carl. So crazy stuff there. But that's just about it for the recap. Now I'll get to my rating quickly, my favorite character, and some more overall thoughts. All right, so my rating for this episode, unbelievable episode. It's going to be a 4.9 out of 5. Such an amazing episode. Like I said, best episode of season 8 by far. I would say by far. The Damned was pretty good, but this is, by far the best one. And I'd say this is the best one of season 7 and 8 combined so far. Definitely. And it's definitely in the top 10 of all time as well for me. I love this episode. I felt like this really, I had a lot of, I was nervous. I was nervous for this episode because I knew that this was a big episode. If this went bad, if this was a bad episode, I don't know what the show would have held in the future. And if it was a good one, then we could move on, and the show may, gain that popularity back and be the same Walking Dead that it used to be. And I feel like that's the case. They really came out. Yeah, they killed Carl. It was a controversial move, judged by a lot of people. But now we have this episode, and it's, crazy stuff. Really an amazing episode. I can't say enough. I loved it. I really did. Honestly, negatives, not really any. I mean, yes, it didn't explain everything. A couple things happened in the finale that weren't explained in this episode, like Gabriel and Carson getting out of the sanctuary. Did they get out successfully? Right? We don't know still, but of course that'll probably be coming next episode, or even, a couple down the road. Who knows? And yeah, so they left some things a mystery for next week, which is always good. You always have to have that little bit of cliffhanger there. Going on to that. Probably my only thing that doesn't make it perfect, one is because it wasn't a Too Far Gone episode, right, or a No Way Out episode. It wasn't up to that standard, but, it was still, an amazing episode, but those episodes are perfect episodes, right? For me, they're 5 out of 5, and this one wasn't quite up to that standard, right? There wasn't, a lot of, there wasn't a big war like Too Far Gone, or them taking out a huge horde of zombies, nothing like that. So, that's why that is there. And then, of course, the Savior's leaving. I just felt like that was kind of unrealistic with all the things that have happened. Why wouldn't they just want to finish the war and kill Rick? I don't know, but they leave. So, anyways, those are two of my only, kind of negatives in this one. But that was pretty much it. I mean, not many, pretty much none. Anyway, so yeah, really great episode. I'm looking forward to next week's as well. Hopefully we see a couple of these things piecing together. I don't know. I see next episode kind of being a down one compared to this one, of course, like I said, pretty high expectations, but so pretty high expectations, but no, next episode will probably be down from this one, yeah, we'll have to see where it is, but I don't think it'll be, as good, of course, for that one. Favorite character for this one is Carl Grimes. So, and it's pretty obvious. I just want to say, Chandler Riggs, I've judged him a lot in the past. Maybe not on this channel, of course, but, with friends and, and I've been, talking to a lot of people about Walking Dead because I know a lot of my friends watch it, as well. And I really bash Chandler Riggs. I mean, I really just haven't liked him in the series. And he's one of the main reasons I didn't like Carl in the series. Carl is just not one of my favorite characters in the show. And honestly, if you would have asked me 3 seasons ago, if he died, would you be okay? I probably would have said yes, and I still would have probably said yes, last season. But now at this point with this episode and stuff, I gotta feel bad about that, right? I don't want to see him die now. And Chandler Riggs, I don't know. His acting in the past has been, sketchy. It's been a little bit off, but this episode, he came through. He, provided one of the best performances I've seen on television before. I mean, he really came out and showed his acting and showed what he can do. I'm not sure where this was the last 2 years or the last, 8 years, but you can't really judge him when he was, 12 years old. But anyways, where this was, but this episode proved to me that Chandler Riggs is a good actor and he has a lot of potential, and I'm definitely going to look forward to his future projects now, and see what he can really do as he grows up, right? He's just becoming a man now, right? So we'll have to see where he goes from here, but yeah, I just want to say that. I want to say an amazing performance by him, best performance by far in the whole show for him in his last episode, which is really important, right, for him to do that, and it made the episode amazing, his performance, so crazy stuff there. And yeah, really, what a great character. I mean, wow. I might make a video on a little bit of a montage of Carl. I've been thinking about doing that since the mid-season finale, so that might be up as well. But yeah, really great character. Like I said, not one of my favorites, but as of recently, kind of grew on me, and Chandler Riggs proved to me in this episode that he is a good actor. And that, Carl Grimes really was a great character on this show, and he's going to be missed, never forgotten, but he's going to be missed, right? Going to be very tough without him, and I don't doubt that we'll see some flashbacks with him, even in this season. I wouldn't be surprised, to see him in some flashbacks for sure with Rick. So anyways, guys, that is just about it for this review. I know it ran a little bit long. I think it's over 30 minutes. I apologize for that. I'm trying to keep these shorter, but this one's such an emotional episode. I had to get everything out. So anyways, yeah, please comment below what you thought of the episode. If you agree with me, it was one of the best episodes of The Walking Dead, or you didn't really like it, maybe it didn't get to you as much, but either way, I think we can all agree that it was very emotional and a tough send-off for such a lovable character in Carl. So crazy stuff. Show's never going to be the same without him. So anyways, again, thank you so much for watching this one. Thank you for the recent support of my videos. Now we have 25,000 total channel views and I think 60-some subscribers. Crazy stuff. Recently, I've been growing really fast, and I really appreciate it. So yeah. Anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week and the next few weeks. So keep coming back next week for Season 8, Episode 10, my review for that.